Okay, so you probably noticed something a little different about me than normal. See these guys? I've got glasses on now. And the only reason I have them on is because somebody once told me that if you wear glasses, you look a lot smarter. You might not be smarter, and I know I'm not, but maybe you look a little bit smarter. So I'm going to stick them on my face and keep them there for a little while. I'll wait till the fan mail comes in and you can tell me if they actually worked. Um, Here's what I want to talk about. I've been looking at a lot of student work lately, and what I'm seeing is kind of disappointing to me. And I don't mean disappointing in a good way. Is there a good way? I mean, I'm just upset, actually. That's where I really am. I'm looking at a lot of students who are writing these responses that your teachers are asking. They just want to know when you're reading, tell me about the characters in the book. That's it. Tell me who these little people are, these made up imaginary people in the book. What kind of person or persons are they? I'm not seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing one sentences to describe a character, especially like a main character, which is very hard for me to imagine. You should be able to write a small paragraph, even after reading just the first few pages of a book. An author usually spends a lot of time developing this person for you. And to see you write so little is just so incredibly disappointing that I'm on the edge of rage. Okay, maybe not on the edge of rage, but I do want to help you with that. And I want you to understand what your English teachers and myself are looking for when you're supposed to answer that question, describe the character you're reading about. And I do apologize. This is going to be a longer video. There's not much I can do about it because I really want to look at and analyze a passage. And I picked the book Hoot for that purpose. But I have a lot to talk about before I can even get there. So please just stick with me and you will understand more, I promise. All right, here we go. On the left-hand side, let me actually just focus on that. Looking at this here, this is kind of the checklist that I like to use with students. These are the questions that you should be asking as you're reading a book, and you should be able to answer at some point after a couple of chapters. You need to know what your character looks like. Believe it or not, authors do that. They describe what their characters look like because we all need a mental picture in our head of what somebody looks like to really make it sticky for us. So be aware, when that comes up, that's something you should include in your write-up. How old the character is incredibly important, okay? And there's a reason for that. An 8-year-old acts very differently than an 88-year-old. They are not the same people in life. You can expect an 8-year-old to have different desires and to talk much differently than somebody who's 88. So that's something you always need to get down on the page. Lucky for you, pretty much everything you're reading, that's going to be in a similar age range to you because those are the kind of books we tend to give you. Those are the books you're basically finding. After that, this is a big one. I know you know this one, how the character acts. How a character acts is critical to who they are. And I got news for you. It's critical to who you are and who I am and who everybody else on the planet is. The way you act the most pretty much says the kind of person that you are. You pay attention to that and you'll learn about who people are, and you should pay attention to that in books. After that, you want to pay attention to how other characters act toward the character that you're trying to describe. Here's an example. If I walk down the hall and every kid parts away from me, like they stick their back against the walls and want no part of me as I go by, doesn't that say something about me? I mean, probably I'm the meanest teacher in the school, or maybe I smell terribly, or maybe both. It's possible. You got to pay attention to that. In a book, other characters often remark on other characters in the book, and what they have to say sometimes has real meaning about the type of person that character is. Okay, this is my biggest one right here. I'm gonna kind of point at this guy right here. So, what a character cares about, the reason I make such a big deal out of this one is because it's important not just for books, but for life. When I know what somebody cares about the most, I know what motivates them. I know what makes them get up in the morning and why they make the decisions they make and why they do the things that they do. It's the same in a book. Once you understand what a character is trying to accomplish or wants the most, you'll understand so much about what they say and do and think. So always pay attention to that, and not just in books, but in real life. Next, this is kind of going away for you, but some authors will just give an adjective or two to describe the personality of their character. When you were young, they did it all the time. They kind of need to just tell you, hey, this guy's kind of a jerk, or this person's incredibly generous. But now you're older and they want to show more than they want to tell. Plus, it's a lot more fun to figure it out for yourself than just being told. So you might not see as much of this, but if you do, it's a freebie. You put it down on your paper. Next, another kind of important one for me. What does the character think or say? And the part about saying, that matters. What people say matters. But what someone thinks is more important. Now, we live in a world where we can't know each other's thoughts, thank God. And so we don't know what's going on in our heads. We might say something, but be thinking something very different. But in a book, the author can choose, he or she, to share what's going on inside their little characters' heads. And I want you to pay real close attention to that, because what's in their head is the truth about what they're really thinking. Always lock in on that. It tells you a lot about them. Okay? And there's one other part that isn't here in this little grid, but it's really just kind of anything else that has importance to understanding a character. So I read a book with some students this year in which the main character, we learned that his dad was in jail and his father was in jail for murdering his wife, which would be the main character's mom. And when we discovered that, it was pretty shocking, but it also helped us understand a great deal about the kind of person the main character, his name is Max, why he did the things he did, why he cared about the things he cared about. It had bearing on the kind of person he is. You know, if your father murders your mom and then you're left alone in a world like that, it's frightening and it has a big impact on you as a character. That's something that should be in a write-up about a character. You shouldn't just ignore it. All right, let's look at an actual example here. From who? Carl Hiaasen. Now, Carl Hiaasen does a lot of great books. He creates a lot of generally very kind of wacky characters. You take them seriously, but not super seriously. And that's what's kind of fun about his books. There are 3 characters he introduces in the very first page or pages of his book, Who? And I'm going to go through all 3 of them, and I'm going to show you what you should collect for information and why. And it's not going to be so easy. Some of it will be obvious, some of it won't. But here we go. Roy would not have noticed the strange boy if it weren't for Dana Matherson, because Roy ordinarily didn't look out the window of the school bus. He preferred to read comics and mystery books on the morning ride to Trace Middle. I picked up a couple things here. 1, I've got a character named Roy, so I put it in yellow. 2, he likes reading comic books and mystery books. 1, I learned he likes to read. That's his preference. That should be something I write about. 2, he's picking comics and mystery books. Comics to me maybe suggest that he likes to be a hero maybe, or possibly he's got a good sense of imagination. The mystery books, well, it's pretty obvious. He's got a sense of curiosity going on there. But if nothing else, I know he likes to read. The other part here, he goes to Trace Middle, gives me some idea of his age. And that's important. You got to write down the age of the character. Even if you're only putting, he's in middle school. That counts. Let me continue. But on this day, a Monday, Roy would never forget Dana Matherson grabbed Roy's head from behind and pressed his thumbs into Roy's temple, as if he were squeezing a soccer ball. The older kids were supposed to stay in the back of the bus, but Dana had snuck up behind Roy's seat and ambushed him. When Roy tried to wriggle free, Dana mushed his face against the window. Okay, we have a new character here, Dana Matherson. We get his full name. Dana doesn't sound like a very nice boy, okay? He's attacking Roy. He's kind of trying to mush his head and smashing his face into the window. I'm guessing he's a bully, but I don't know for sure at this point. But it looks an awful lot like it, and that's based on his actions. It was then, squinting through the smudged glass, that Roy spotted the strange boy running along the sidewalk. It appeared as if he was hurrying to catch a school bus, which had stopped at a corner to pick up more kids. The boy was straw blonde and wiry, and his skin was nut brown from the sun. The expression on his face was intent and serious. He wore a faded Miami Heat basketball jersey and dirty khaki shorts, and here was the odd part: no shoes. The soles of his bare feet looked as black as barbecue coals. All right. So I did highlight Strange Boy. I don't know if he's going to be an important character in a book. Actually, I do. I read the book. But, I decided I would highlight it anyway because I got to keep track of everybody as they pop up. And I'll decide as the book moves along who's most important and who's not. But this is a strange boy. He's doing something kind of weird. He's running along barefoot, which you don't see every day, as if he's going to catch a school bus. But notice here, the author gave us a description of this strange boy. He has straw blonde hair. He's wiry, meaning he's kind of thin but strong looking, and his skin is not brown from being out in the sun all the time. Okay. He's got a serious look on his face, very intent. Does that mean he's a serious kid? I don't know. In that one moment he is. I can't write on my paper that he's a serious intent kid unless I see a repetition of this happening or other kids say that kid's really a serious kid. So you've got to keep that in your head that some things are just a matter of the moment, okay? If somebody drops something on my foot, I'm going to be in pain and I'm going to scream out and I might be mad about it even. Does that mean I'm an angry guy all the time? No, there's a reason for why I got angry and upset, okay? So those are things we always keep in mind. But right now, I do know what he looks like. Trace Middle School didn't have the world's strictest dress code, but Roy was pretty sure that some sort of footwear was required. The boy might have been carrying sneakers in his backpack. If only he'd been wearing a backpack. No shoes, no backpack, no book strange. Indeed, on a school day. Roy was sure that the barefoot boy would catch all kinds of grief from Dana and the other big kids once he boarded the bus. But that didn't happen. Now, see this little dot, dot, dot? I'm going to go off a little bit because that's what I'm known for. If I don't go off somewhere in another direction, you won't recognize me. The dot, dot, dot is an important little thing. It shows up all the time in books. And it suggests that somebody's train of thought, their thinking kind of just died off, or what they were saying kind of died off. Okay? It's like when you're talking with somebody and then after a while you don't really know what to say. You say, well, I hope you have a good day. And that's it. You kind of just let it die right there. His thought dies off because he thinks that the strange kid's going to get on the bus, but he notices that doesn't actually happen because the kid goes in another direction. Because the boy kept running past the corner, past the line of students waiting to get on the bus, past the bus itself, Roy wanted to shout, "Hey, look at that guy!" But his mouth wasn't working so well. Dana Madison still had him from behind, pushing his face against the window. All right, I'm feeling pretty confident Dana's a bully and kind of a jerk, and we see the kid is still running. As the bus pulled away from the intersection, Roy hoped to catch another glimpse of the boy farther up the street. However, he had turned off the sidewalk and was now cutting across a private yard, running very fast, much faster than Roy could run, and maybe even faster than Richard, Roy's best friend back in Montana. Richard was so fast that he got to work out with the high school track squad when he was only in 7th grade. All right, there's actually a lot of information in here to pull from. So I'm learning that the strange kid is an incredibly fast runner. He's so fast that he's faster than Roy's BFF, who lives back in Montana. And Roy's BFF, Richard, was so fast that he was allowed to run with the high school team when he was only in middle school. That's a fast kid, which means the kid running, the strange kid without the shoes, is incredibly fast. And he's even faster because he's got no shoes on. That's pretty remarkable. We run best with shoes. So I'm learning a lot about just how quick this strange kid is. If I don't put down in my notes that there's a strange kid with no shoes on, who's got blonde hair and he's kind of wiry and strong looking, and he's amazingly fast, I have failed to write about this character. You have failed to write about that character, okay? But I also learned something else here. I'm getting a hint at this part. Richard was Roy's best friend back in Montana. This sounds to me like maybe Roy has moved recently to this new town, and so he may be in unfamiliar territory. Is that worth writing about? I think so. When we go to a new place, it's strange to us. We may not have the same friends. We don't know how to fit in. That has bearing on the kind of person you are, at least for a short time. All right, let's go further. Dana Madison was digging his fingernails into Roy's scalp, trying to make him squeal, but Roy barely felt a thing. He was gripped with curiosity. As the running boy dashed through one neat green yard after another, getting smaller in Roy's vision, as he put a wider distance between himself and the school bus. Now there's that word, curiosity. I went and I highlighted that because remember at the beginning, I thought a kid who reads mystery books might be the curious type. Now I'm thinking, here's this kid, Roy. He's watching what's happening outside the bus. He's noticing a lot of stuff happening outside the bus, little details left and right. And now I see that he's extremely curious about what's going on with this kid. He's gripped by it. I mean, who wouldn't be? A kid running really fast, no shoes, and not getting on the bus. That's curious. But it's coming up a little bit again. I feel like I maybe could write down that, Roy is a pretty observant kid. He notices things and that maybe he's got a strong sense of curiosity. I could be wrong. It could just be the moment, but you never know. Okay, and I'm going to stop doing this because it looks really weird. No, let me just do it a couple seconds more. All right, that's enough. Back to here. We're getting toward the end. Roy saw a big pointy-eared dog, probably a German Shepherd, bound off someone's porch and go for the boy. Incredibly, the boy didn't change his course. He vaulted over the dog, crashed through a cherry hedge, and then disappeared from view. Roy gasped. Okay, I'm convinced. The kid with no name, the strange boy, is pretty agile. That means he's got a lot of great bounce and strength and speed. Okay? He's a physically gifted kid. That has to be in my notes. What's the matter, cowgirl? Had enough? This was Dana hissing in Roy's right ear. Being the new kid on the bus, Roy didn't expect any help from others. The cowgirl remark was so lame, it wasn't worth getting mad about. Dana was a well-known idiot, on top of which he outweighed Roy by at least 50 pounds. Fighting back would have been a complete waste of energy. This is another paragraph packed with good information. So Dana is continuing to be the bully. It's pretty clear that's what he is. I also learned that Dana is 50 pounds bigger than Roy. He's a big kid. He's probably bigger than most every other kid, which is why it makes him easy to be a bully. Then I saw this part. He's a well-known idiot. Now, if Roy is new to his school in this town, and he even knows that Dana's kind of an idiot, I'm guessing that Dana really is an idiot, that people say this about him because it's well known by everybody else. And I think Roy's figured it out too on his own. So I could write about Dana. He's kind of an idiot and he's a bully. I can put those for sure. I know he's probably the same age because he's on the bus going to Trace Middle School as Roy and the kid who's running outside the bus. What else did I learn here? Well, I learned that I was correct. Roy is the new kid. And this part here, fighting back would have been a complete waste of energy. And where he says that Dana's comment is lame. I feel like he's intelligent. Again, he's observant. He understands that fighting back gets him nowhere, so I won't bother. And he remarks that the cowgirl, comment was just kind of a lame attack, verbal attack by Dana. So maybe he's kind of smart. I don't know for sure, but I'm sensing it. I might put that in my notes. Had enough yet? We can't hear you, Tex. Dana's breath smelled like stale cigarettes. Smoking and beating of smaller kids were his two main hobbies. Yeah, okay, Roy said impatiently. I've had enough. So we learn, obviously here, Dana smokes. That should be in my notes. We know that he definitely enjoys beating up kids smaller than him. So he's got some issues. He's a complete bully. Is he a character that I think is going to be well-rounded in the book? I don't know. He might be. Later on, they might change him in some way, and we'll learn so much about his life that we'll understand why he's a bully. But then again, we might not. He just might be your flat character. The whole book, he's just a jerk and a bully and somebody to watch out for. He creates danger in the book. But I do know Roy's my main character, and I got to pay a lot of attention to him. Do I know what Roy cares about the most? No, I don't. It's only the beginning pages, but I will learn. So let's take a look at what I should have together. Now, I didn't write this the way I probably should have, as some really nice, let me get this big, some really great notes here. But I did list all the things that I saw as I was going through the reading. If you just took these and wrote 3/4 of these in some type of paragraph, your English teacher would be like, wow, that's the smartest kid in the world. I don't even know why they're bothering to be in 6th grade. I got to move them up. Okay? Same goes for Dana. Same goes for the strange boy. That was only 2 pages of the book I read, by the way, and I pulled out a ton of characterization information. You have to learn to do the same thing. You do. You don't have a choice. We're going to keep marking them down if you don't do that. So my advice, pay attention to this. Okay? Keep these little questions in your head, and when they come up and you discover them, go ahead and collect the information somewhere so you can write it in a paragraph. And that's all I got to say about characterization because I've been saying an awful lot. Hopefully the glasses worked effectively and you're thinking, man, I know Miss Lagana isn't the brightest guy in the world, but those glasses make him look bright. I'm going to listen to what he says. Best of luck to everybody. Please stay healthy.